So my name is Bob Stewart. Again, welcome everybody to ActiveRain University. If you wanted to talk to me, rave about how fantastic I did, or maybe complain about how horrible I was today, you can do that by talking to me on Twitter at ActiveBob, or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/ActiveBob. Again, this is going to be our blogging blueprint series. At the end of the class, I'm going to ask you guys what you would like to see in some of these subsequent blogging blueprint classes that we may offer. So the first one we did was on creating market reports and community or neighborhood blog posts. Today we're going to talk about creating a blog post for your listing, and then you guys are going to kind of set the course for what we decide to do probably after the first of the year. This is going to be we've got one class next week for ActiveRain University, and then we're going to let you guys take a little break for the holidays, enjoy your family, and we'll be back at the beginning of the year for the next blogging blueprint, and we'll restart the blogging bootcamp classes as well. So here is your blueprint. That's it. Thank you. Goodbye. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about this now, right? So you guys, I'm going to go through and we're going to kind of break this post down. And so on the left-hand side there, I mean, I've got notes for kind of what each section of a listing should look like. What is the purpose of each section of the listing? But it all starts with our title. And so let's talk about kind of that first piece of our listing blog, which is going to be our descriptive title. Okay, so in the case of my example here, and if you wanted to actually follow along on my example, maybe I can have Carrie jump over here. Carrie, in the ActiveRain University blog, this demo blog post here that I'm using as the example, if you wanted to send this link out, people could actually follow along from this link, or you can just watch my slides as we kind of go through each section. But the very first piece we're going to look at is going to be the descriptive title. And in my case, I've used waterfront condo for sale in West Seattle. And the reason I did that is because I want to make sure that my title is based on some descriptive element of the listing itself. There's a few things that I never want to use in my title, and the first thing that I see a lot of people use in their title line would be the address. If you're using the address in your listings, you're missing the mark on anybody who might be looking for a listing similar to yours that isn't your specific listing, because you know, in our SEO class, we talk a lot about how the title of our blog post is going to drive the search engines in terms of how they decide to display that piece of content. And so if we use our address and somebody types our address, you know, there's a decent chance that we're going to be found on the first page of the search engines. But look, if somebody knows the address of your listing, I promise they're going to find it. Okay, and a lot of times they're going to find it on sites like Trulia, Realtor.com, Realestate.com, Zillow, Homes.com, right? Some of these big box sites that, you know, spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on search engine optimization, and they're always ranking on that first page for some of the more common terms. Don't use the address. Okay, we want to have a descriptive title that describes the property, so that if somebody's looking for a home like ours, but not necessarily for our exact listing, there's still the potential that they're going to find it. So in my case, I used waterfront condo for sale in West Seattle. Okay, you want to pick out some component of your listing, and we have a class that we just did yesterday on keyword phrases where we talk about some of the different ways that you could potentially describe your listing. So we want to use a phrase that someone might search for. Okay, a lot of times it's going to be based on like a feature of the home. So in this case, you know, it's a waterfront condo. Okay, and it's for sale in West Seattle, and that's kind of a little bit more specific geography than just Seattle. We're talking about a kind of a particular area in Seattle, but we're never going to use the address. The other thing that I see people do that you want to try to avoid, or you absolutely want to avoid, you don't want to try to avoid it, is they'll use the flowery description, right? Like, fantastic condo in a great neighborhood. Well, that might be what it is, and that might be very descriptive of it, but it's missing a very important component of a good title, which is the geography. Okay, so try to avoid those kind of flowery descriptions that don't really drill down and kind of specifically describe your listing or a type of listing like yours. So we're always, everything we do with our blog, if we're thinking in terms of ranking in the search engines, is going to kind of start with that title. So once we've placed the title in there and we start to get into the body of the blog post, the very first thing that I'm going to suggest that you have in the post is a link that allows them to search for similar properties. Okay, so you'll see at the top of our post, the first line is going to say, search current inventory of waterfront condos for sale in Seattle. And it might even be better that I had, waterfront condos for sale in West Seattle, but the anchor text that I use on that link is going to either exactly match or very closely match the descriptive title that I used. Because I want them to know, if they land on my post, and here's what happens when people are looking at listings, and this is, if you've ever done Craigslist ads, or you've done effective Craigslist ads, one of the things that you want to try to do is you're not necessarily going to give them the whole ball of wax up front so that they can disqualify the listing, because on Craigslist at least, people are looking for reasons to disqualify the listing. They're looking for reasons to say, this is not the listing for me, and if our particular listing doesn't happen to be the listing for them, maybe they can't afford the $685,000 price that they see when they first land on this waterfront condo, we want to give them a chance to search for other properties in that area, and we want to make it kind of the first thing that they see. Now, why? Because it's going to lead them back to our IDX, okay, and it's going to give us a chance to capture them as a lead. So, a powerful IDX will allow us to create these kind of very specific searches where we're dropping somebody onto a search page on our website that's showing them listings similar to the one that we were talking about in our blog post. So we're going to use keywords for that link as the anchor text, and it's going to be that first piece of the listing. Okay? The second piece of the listing is going to be our basic property details. Okay, so our listing details, you'll notice in there that I restate the title. And the reason I do this is because somehow I want to get to 3 to 5 usages of my keyword phrase, and we know that from our SEO class. My keyword phrase is waterfront condo for sale in Seattle. Okay, so I want to restate my title, and I've got it just kind of tucked there under that listing details header. But then I'm going to come in, I'm going to give them some of the details about the listing. I'm going to give them an address. I'm going to give them a price. And one of the things that I need to be careful with the price is, when you do a lot of your I guess online advertising is going to stem from or come out of your MLS entry, right? So when you put the listing in the MLS, it's going to get fed out to all of the different places that your MLS might connect to. So the big box places, the Zillows, the Trulios, the Realtor.coms, it's going to go out to all of those places. And when you make updates to the price, so if there's a price reduction and you change the price, it's going to reflect across all of those places. And I guess we all know that some of them update sooner than others, but eventually the price is going to get updated for anything that's connected to my MLS. And then we have to realize our blog post obviously is not connected to our MLS. So if we're going to include the price in there, we need to make sure that we would potentially come back and update it. Now, there's kind of a strategy around marketing a property, and a lot of you may do this on your flyers, and that's to withhold the price. Right? You want somebody, like in a flyer scenario, to text your text capture or your call capture number so that you can create a lead out of that to get the price, or you want them to call you to get the price. You may consider doing something similar in your blog posts where you would have something like price, call to see the current price. So just know that withholding that information is probably going to result in more calls. But you may be one of those people that says, look, I'm not interested in doing that to kind of trick somebody into becoming a lead for me. That's fine. Just realize if you are one of those lead generation machines, withholding the price here may be something that you consider. And then they can always be able to click through, and we're going to give them a chance in a little bit to click through to the actual listing on our website itself. So that's somewhere that they could go and get the price. And it may be that you actually include that link in this area, to see the price, click here, which would send them back to your IDX and give you a chance to capture them as a lead. Then we're just give them a couple of other basic pieces of information, right? Maybe the MLS number, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. whatever you guys think is important to kind of get in that snapshot of the listing. But again, what's the term, like opening your kimono? You don't want to just show them everything right off the gate or right out of the gate, so that there's no reason for them to need to click through potentially to your IDX, or there's more reasons for them to disqualify this as something that they maybe are not interested in. The next little piece there is going to be a phone call to action. So we always want to, even though on your blog, your phone number is going to be located in some different places. It might be located, it's going to be located on the right-hand side of your blog. If it's an ActiveRain blog, it's going to be located sometimes in your signature line. You want to make sure that, real quick, especially after they've kind of gotten the basic details, that we give them a chance to make it real easy to reach out and talk to us. And again, if similar to how you might use text messaging as a less threatening way for somebody to get additional details at the property, like from your signs, you may choose to use text messaging as a way for people to get additional information, or maybe you have text messaging set up where people can arrange a showing in that fashion as well. But you could use either one of those components here in this phone call to action area right below where we're going to leave the listing details. Okay, the next piece, we're going to describe the home. And this is, for a lot of you guys, you want to make it easy, right? You say, okay, well, I've done all this. I've put this thing into the MLS, and I've taken the time to write the description. But in the description here on your blog post, I really want you to think about, make sure somebody realizes what it's going to be like to live in this house. Okay, and a lot of times what happens in our MLS descriptions is we're limited to the number of characters we can use. So we use shorthand, we use things that are really easy for other realtors to understand, or we use things like 3BD/2 BTH, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. But we want to make sure that the words that we're using when we describe the home in our blog post are fully written out, and that a consumer can kind of easily digest the story of the home. Okay, so we're not going to use that just straight, copy and paste MLS description. We're not going to use shorthand. We're actually going to write this thing out in paragraphs and sentences. And one of the reasons we do that is because the search engines are getting a heck of a lot better at understanding, just written language. So they can identify that this thing was done by a real live person, and it was, written in a manner that the consumer who lands there is going to understand it a little better, right? It's done in sentences and paragraphs. It's not shorthand. It's using full written words like bedrooms and bathrooms, as opposed to 3BD and some of the things that a lot of us use in our descriptions on the MLS, because again, we're limited by characters. We're not limited here. Okay, so we want to make sure that we very adequately describe the home and give somebody a sense for what it would be like to live there. Is this going to take you a little bit of extra time? Yes. But is it going to be worth it? Yes, right? If somebody lands there, we want to make sure that they get a really good, solid idea of what it would be like to live in this house. Okay, so the next piece, and again, you guys could be following along here on the blog post itself to kind of get you a little bit more complete view of what we're talking about and how these elements all kind of fit together. The next piece is going to be a couple of images, okay? And what I would suggest with the images is don't use more than 2. Okay, I realize that images are a very important factor in getting people to, to fall in love or to become interested with a particular listing, because they kind of show you what the thing is going to look like. Looking at, they're just very important. Okay, I realize that, but let's use our images as another way to drive them back to our website to get kind of the full kimono look, right? To get all of the, if you've got 15 images back on your website, great. We're going to show them 2, and then we're going to give them a chance to go back to a place where we can more easily capture their information and create a prospect or a lead out of them on our IDX, right? So which 2 photos? Here's what I would suggest. I would have that kind of intro photo that most of you are going to use as kind of photo number 1 on the MLS, which is generally going to be the picture of the front of the house. Okay. The second image then I would suggest be the feature that we're going to talk about in the next paragraph. And so with your blog post and with your listings, right? We're going to try to identify one feature that's kind of that, man, you got to buy this listing because it has this awesome something in it. Okay, we'll talk about that in the next paragraph, but we want that second photo to be of that. And in this case, I used the amazing gourmet kitchen as the feature of the home that I'm going to fully describe and really bring to life in the next paragraph. So that's going to be one of the photos that I use. More photos can, I guess it's better, but we want to use this as an opportunity to potentially drive them back to our listing on our website, right, for lead capture opportunities or for more lead capture opportunities. And so right here below the listing or below the photos, we're going to have a link in here that says click here to see additional images of this West Seattle view condo. Okay, this secondary link, and this is going to be the second time we have a link in our post, we're not going to use that exact match keyword phrase. Okay, we're going to use something kind of similar but different for our anchor text. So in this case, I have additional images of this West Seattle view condo. Okay, so everybody's got that. It's pretty simple. So the next paragraph, we're going to describe that best feature, that second image that we chose to use. We're going to give it a full description, a full written description. It might be one paragraph, it might be 2 paragraphs. Okay, but we're really going to dive in and bring that feature to life. This is the reason why they have to buy this particular home. Okay, so in my case, it's the gourmet kitchen. I'm going to go in there and kind of paint a story of somebody, of having friends over and entertaining around the amazing island that's there. Hopefully you can find something in your listing to bring to life. If you have just an as-is and it's a knockdown, maybe you talk about the awesome remodel that they're going to be in store for. Whatever it is, right? You have to find something to kind of bring this listing to life. And, if you're struggling to figure this out, maybe this is a conversation you have with your sellers when you sit down, right? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, tell me the one thing you really just love about this home. And it could be that it's not necessarily a feature in the home. Maybe it's the big backyard, or it's, the awesome views, or it's the heated toilet seat. Like, I don't know what it is, right? Every listing is going to be different, but again, we just want to make sure that we really bring that one feature to life, and it's going to be that same feature that we use for that second image just above this particular section of the listing. Okay, so the next portion, we're going to talk about the area, the community, the subdivision, the condo complex that the listing is located in. Okay? So every time you take a listing, there's going to be 2 blog posts that I would suggest you write if you haven't done them already. The first one's going to be this listing post that we're talking about right now, but maybe that's not the first one. Maybe the first one should be a full blog post about the area that our listing is located. So in this particular case, my listing's in West Seattle, but it's actually in the Lincoln Park area of West Seattle. And Lincoln Park would be like the subdivision or the neighborhood of West Seattle that this listing is located in. So I'm going to describe for them in the post Lincoln Park. But I want to have written another post about Lincoln Park itself. Okay, and in our first blogging blueprint series, we did blueprints on writing these types of community posts. So every time I take a listing, I'm going to say, look, do I have something in my, in my storehouse of knowledge, in my blog already about Lincoln Park? Right? If I don't, I'm going to create that piece of content. Once I do, then in my listing, as I'm describing Lincoln Park, I'm going to kind of, summarize it, right? It's not going to be the full-form blog post that I'd written about Lincoln Park, but it's going to be, how does this home fit into Lincoln Park? What are some of the things that are nearby? What does the homeowners association do? Right? It's just going to give them an idea of who the neighbors are, what's going on around the area, what kind of schools do the kids go to, right? But it's not going to be quite as developed as my post just about Lincoln Park. But somewhere in there, I'm going to link back to my kind of full-form post about the community or the area. Now, if you had never chosen to do this, and I see this all the time, I see people's blog posts ranking when they're talking about a particular listing for the community that the listing's in. So people will be in there doing homes for sale in Lincoln Park, Seattle, right? And my blog post for my listing comes up. That's fine. It would be better if we had kind of that timeless Lincoln Park listing or Lincoln Park blog post out there that they could find in that scenario if they were just looking for stuff in Lincoln Park. The reason that we link from this post to the Lincoln Park post is because at the end of the day, we want that Lincoln Park post to be the one that performs better in the search engine. And these kind of subtle links from other posts, right, our listings, back to that main kind of anchor timeless community post are going to keep that post propped up in the search engines. So this kind of final full form paragraph is going to be about the community, the area, the subdivision, the condo complex that our listing is located in, or I guess it's in which our listing is located would be the proper English on that one. And again, here's the link to the full blog post on this community. I want to make sure that we're using the anchor text. Simple stuff. Okay, the final piece of this is going to be another link for them to find similar homes in the area. Okay, so at the very start of our blog post, right, at the very start of our blog post, we had a link for them to find other waterfront condos for sale in Seattle, because right when they get here, if they disqualify this thing and they say, oh, this isn't the one I'm looking for, they can easily kind of find other similar properties, okay? After they've read through our particular listing, okay, if they want to find other homes in the area, if something in here disqualified the listing, okay, we want to make it real easy again for them to find similar properties in the area. And again, this is just driving them back to our IDX. I've done classes in the past. We'll do another one next week about lead capture and calls to action, but this is going to be, if this was my particular blog post, where do you think these links would be going? Let's take a look here. Mine are going to be going to the 34 waterfront condos in Seattle. Okay, so these are, I have a search set up right now for condos on the waterfront in Seattle. That's where the search is going to be going. Okay, the same thing's going to be happening for this link down here at the bottom, find similar homes in the area. I'm going to have it landing on an exact page, right? I'm not going to land them on the home search page and make them try to figure out what's a similar home in this area, right? I've already performed the search for them for condos in Seattle that are on the water. This is going to be the page that I link to, right? These 34 condos on the water in Seattle. Were you guys the type in class that, like, if it was an hour-long class and the teacher let you out halfway through, you were like, yeah, woo, I get to have something else to do with my day. I'm done. Okay, there's not a lot to this. I think the most important thing that I'll just reiterate before we leave, or before I take some questions from you guys, is make sure the title is something that somebody might potentially search for and it describes your listing or a listing like yours. Right? We don't want it to be that real direct 123 Main Street, right? Or we don't want it to be that super generic, amazing condo with breathtaking views. Okay? We want it to be a descriptive of our condo or a home like ours. Waterfront condo for sale in West Seattle. Okay? Link to our website where they can find other similar homes. Quick details, right? Not the full kimono. Okay? Call to action, phone call to action, could be a text call to action if you have that capability. Okay? Full description of the property. Okay? Tell the story of it. 2 images, right? With a chance for them to head back to our website, right? And if we head back here, here's the listing. Okay? If they wanted to view all the photos, they can do that. Right? I've got a chance in here to allow them to request a showing, or there's some lead capture opportunities in here. right? Description of that one feature that I chose to use as my alternate photo, description of the neighborhood with a link back, and then a chance for them, if they've disqualified my listing and they want to search for other similar homes, to head off and do that. The one last thing we want to make sure you do when you're posting your listings is don't just post and pray. And I've talked about this in some of the different classes we take, but we want to think about where is it appropriate out there to then go ahead and place our listing so that it potentially touches some of our social circles, okay? It's not going to be appropriate to place listings everywhere, right? You might not place every single listing you take on your personal Facebook page, but you may choose to do it on your business Facebook page. I would suggest that you definitely take the opportunity to post your listings on Google+. Okay? ActiveRain makes it real easy, or we make it real easy for you guys up here at the top to kind of share on Google+, or share on LinkedIn, or tweet your post out. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're getting it into these places. If you have lists set up on Facebook, maybe you choose to share it with a list. Okay, maybe you've got a prospects list for people that you're connected to on Facebook that are, you know, thinking about buying in the next 120 days or something. Maybe you have leads where this listing would be a great fit for that lead, right? You've got somebody that's been on your website recently and they've been looking at condos between $600,000 and $700,000 in Seattle, right? This might be an opportunity for us to send something to a particular lead that we have, and a real strong IDX is, you know, we're going to be able to look and know kind of what our leads are doing and what types of properties they're looking at, what types of searches they have set up on our website. If we have something like that, this may be an opportunity for us to send a blog post out to a particular person, right? Where we're really identifying somebody in our prospects, in our sphere, in our database that's interested, that we think would be interested in this type of a property, right? Take an opportunity to get that property in front of somebody who might actually buy it. Okay, maybe you've got a community fan page. Maybe I had a fan page set up for Lincoln Park, the area in which this listing is located. Well, I may choose to share it on that community fan page. So always kind of think about, you know, where are the appropriate places out there other than just in my blog that I can take that post and share it, so that it kind of creates that ripple effect and more people get a chance to look at this thing.